they don't see life the same like generations past. They seen all the falsehoods and lies and the debt that's been thrown on to our generations. They don't want that. The young folks see that. They don't want no parts of that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again so much for tuning in. This is the Realdealfam Network. I am Andre, and this is the gorgeous wife, Essie.
Let my press out. And boop, I'm the boss of the show. He's at the house, and that's just how it is.
She just showing out, y'all. Well, thank y'all again so much for tuning in. We highly appreciate all the support. If you hadn't had the opportunity yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
Subscribe.
We would highly appreciate it. With that being said, we're going to dive right in. Tonight, we got a topic that's pretty interesting. Should African Americans consider leaving the States based on the current climate and how things are going? What would you say to that?
I mean, nobody wants to leave. You felt like you built up there, this whole place. It's, pretty comfy. You just can't get a leg up, and then you got nobody's sticking up for you. You got your president over here making racial.
Old days, you know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. That's true.
You bet I liked it.
Yeah? What'd you like about it?
Knocking the hell out of that big mouth. We don't know who he is, but we know he's not acting like an American.
So you deserved it?
Every bit of it.
What was that?
Yes, he deserved it. The next time we see him, we might have to kill him.
It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask, what made them do this? They must be taken off the street. We have predators on our streets. How can he really be a progressive and want to lock these people up? And I'd say lock the SOBs up. Increase the penalties. Increase them. I would put the son of a gun in jail. Put them to death.
And working against the African American community, it's been like that the whole time. So, I mean, it's become a new reality recently. The hundreds and hundreds of Black African Americans are moving daily out of the country.
Yes, they are.
These are just new realities, the questions that we're posing to you. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that has moved out of the country. A lot of people are moving back to the continent of Africa. Some of them moving to Europe. They're moving different places. This is a question that's being posed and that you're seeing a lot. It just doesn't pertain to the African American community. There's
I don't know about Europe. Are they moving to Europe?
Yeah, they're moving to Europe. They're moving to different places in Europe. I've seen there's been an influx of people moving to Portugal and different places like that.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes.
Well, some place that they're feeling welcomed, and you know that African Americans, we've talked about that in a lot of the videos that we did before. Maybe we'll link it down below. But, many African Americans can trace their roots back to, being Hebrew.
Well, it's a lot going on. You got that. You got the people just digging and trying to find out the background. And what basically, I guess, spurred a lot of this is that the conditions that the country finds itself in, I guess, economically and socially, with all the social unrest in terms of these riots and these different things taking place in terms of police brutality. And so people are leaving. It's just not the same. The American dream that most people had aspired to began to feel like it was not attainable, especially African Americans. And so they're looking for greener pastures, and a lot of people have been moving out. And at the way things are going economically, they're saying up to 80% of adults have moved back home since the COVID thing, based on the different situations between a certain age group. Age group between, like, I think it was 18 to 25, something like that.
Oh, 80, yeah, I mean, the kiddies, they got to move back. But, yeah, African Americans just prop up the American economic, system. So we are the base or the foundation, just like in Egyptian days, and the Hebrews were the base or the foundation of the economy. And then, if the base or foundation is unhappy with the treatment that they're receiving and they up and leave, what happens to the system?
Well, the system right now is on life support, politically and socially. Everything is kind of up in the air, and people need to feel secure. If they don't feel like they're moving in a tangible way in life, they're gonna look for greener pastures. Just like we said in the previous video, even animals, when they don't find a food source, they tend to migrate somewhere to where it's more plentiful, and that's basically what's taking place now. And so in order, like my wife said, the society depends and needs its citizens to thrive. And if they're moving, then you're going to have a problem. So you need to address those particular issues that community is having and try to get that handled.
And we told you in previous videos that you're already in a depression. They just haven't announced it on the news. And so typically, in the 1920s, the Great Depression, during the time of the Depression, 30% of the population migrated to cities or in other areas. So if you're going to go through a giant depression, one that they say is, greater than the Great Depression, you can anticipate large groups of people migrating and moving due to, unforeseen circumstances. So you just have to keep that in mind. You have to think who's going to be moving, who's affected by all of this, and where places that they may be moving to.
Definitely. There's a lot of things you have to consider. This is not an easy decision by any means by anybody who's deciding to do these type things, to leave the country of your origin and go somewhere else and set up shop. That's a pretty dramatic change.
Yeah, that's like heartbreaking. Nobody wants to do that.
Right. And so there's definitely have to be conditions to push an individual to do something like that.
Yeah, financial. You need food.
That is a main driver.
Mm-hmm.
But like we say, there's safety issues. There's a lot of different variables that go into making a decision like that.
Yeah, so that was one reason why African Americans after slavery were pushed and forced actually to migrate out of the South, and they migrated up north and west, is because conditions were unsafe after the watchmen or police officers were implemented, and they formed the Ku Klux Klan, and they came and did what's called night terrors or raids in the area. Basically, it was to drive off African Americans off of the land.
Definitely.
And so that left the land for those that were, willing to scoop it up. And so looking for greener pastures and safer places.
You always have to take things in consideration. So nobody, like we say, nobody wants to move, but you always need to be prepared. That's why we posed the question, is it something you should consider? Because if things change here and things go south, and you never know. We've been blessed to have basically a peaceful society in terms of not being invaded by a foreign country or something like that. But those things are always possible. Nothing is guaranteed. So you always have to keep in the back of your mind, if you have to move, you're going to have to do it. So I think this, more than any time in our lifetime, is something that people need to at least have in the back of their mind.
Right. And typically the people that are moving, I mean, it's expensive to move.
Very.
It's, you typically have to leave your family, your extended family, if they can't come. It's just a lot that goes into having to relocate. That's why when you think of foreigners that come here, they had to leave a lot. And typically, they were the well-to-do ones wherever they came from, because the poor ones couldn't move.
Yeah, it takes finances to move, and so that a lot of people, I guess, that takes the whole process off the table, and so they have to kind of deal with whatever takes place where they're living at. And that's extremely unfortunate. That's why it's incumbent upon your country to protect you and to make you feel safe in your own land. But at the moment, like we say, a lot of people are moving, and for African Americans, they're going back to the continent. Now, if you look at some of the reports that have come from people who've made that transition, it hadn't been a smooth transition. Sometimes it's rocky. You got to get past the cultural differences first. So there's a lot of different elements that go into even moving to a place where you feel more safe, where people look just like you, but the culture differences can be tremendous.
Yeah, language, religion, ethics, just everything about your way of life is different, and so you have to adapt. But these things are not far-fetched, so we're not out the loop. These things are already actually happening. It's just if you're behind the 8 ball, you haven't heard about it yet. But that's why we're here. We're enlightening you. We're telling you what's going on.
Because this is a large part of our community that don't get these type of things. It's not something that they putting on mainstream media. And then a lot of people, like if you watching YouTube, a lot of people are just on there for entertainment. But the platform could be used for a lot more than that. It's to inform and help enlighten, help edify us as a whole. And so that's why we bringing this and presenting this, because it's something that every family need to consider. If something happens, what are you going to do? Are you in a position to leave the country, or should you be working towards that just in case if something happened? Because you better believe those people who are in charge, they have them an escape plan if things go bad.
Yeah, the well-to-do. So in other examples of this is, this is horrible, but during the Holocaust, Hitler, a lot of the well-to-do ones was able to get out of town, before everything popped off.
Same thing in Cuba.
It's Cuba, the well-to-do ones, which we're going to just touch on race lightly here. The Cuban population typically in South Florida is lighter skinned.
Yes.
Okay, but if you've ever seen photos or been to Cuba in person, much of the population is black.
Yes, a large percentage.
So there you see the dynamics. The white Cubans who had a little bit of money and were able to flee the island left for greener pastures. And the black ones that probably didn't have all the money and had to stay, And so there you go. The same thing happened in Argentina when the economy fell out. In Mexico, the same thing. You see this all over. It's just Americans have never had to experience looking outside of the country, continent, country, everything, to go look for greener pastures. But these are things we're telling you need to be.
Yes, and Mexico is a great example. You see tons of people in Mexico migrated all throughout the 90s, the 80s, trying to come to America because they were having financial hardships in their own country. So sometimes it has nothing to do with military invasion or stuff like that.
The American farmers went down there, like the fruit farmers and stuff went down there and messed up their economy. But that's for another video.
Right.
So then
that's economics.
Encourage them to come up and work in the States as laborers or whatever, work farmland. And then when they didn't want them anymore, told them that they were illegal, they had to go. So anyway, that's for another video. But these things happen.
You just have to always keep that in mind. I think Americans as a whole has always been very comfortable and kind of complacent and look at the world news in terms of that happens over there, that'll never happen over here, that kind of thing. We will never have to deal with that. And that's the moment that it happens and you get caught basically with your pants down, and then you get it's bad for you. And everybody, if you're an adult and you have kids and stuff like that, you're responsible to always consider the worst. You always need to be prepared for what could possibly happen. So don't sit back and say, oh, well, they're going to take care of it for us. The government going to take care of this or take care of that. No, you're responsible.
And that's what we touched on the last time, where we say UBI. What is it? UBI?
Universal Basic Income.
For depending on a government to give you a check, even though it's supposed to level the playing field out, just depending at all times on that to feed you and sustain you, when at any moment it could all go bust and you don't have 1 cent to your name. You haven't been out there trying to, look for a job, or you can't, no, these things are not the American way.
Yeah. I think it's always best to keep a sense of desperation always. It just keeps you on your toes. It keeps you from being complacent. And you need to always have a sense of like urgency behind you. And with stuff like, that's why universal basic income is so controversial, because some people feel like it'll make the vast majority of the population apathetic and kind of sit back and won't achieve anything. It is great in its essence as a safety net to help the population and the citizens of the country when you're having a calamity like now. But the only way to have money and to have things is productivity.
And I wouldn't be so opposed to it if I didn't see at my own eyes the destruction of small business.
Yes.
And the them giving a lot of money to big businesses that already just didn't need it. Yes. And then siphoned the money they were supposed to give to small businesses. A large portion of that went to big business. So then you want me to depend on the government, its honesty and truth, to sustain me and feed me and my children.
Yes, it's just not good to give that sort of responsibility to somebody else and not take it upon yourself. The government serves a purpose. It has a great role in which it's designed to take care of its citizens and to look out for them, but not to basically rule over you and take your responsibility away from you as a human and as things you need to do for you and your family.
Right. So these things are great in theory, but when in this country, in America, it's not going to work. So take, for instance, we had the lottery. Okay, they implemented the lottery here.
Oh my goodness!
in the country, and the majority of the money was supposed to go to pay for schooling.
Yes. And
then other things around the state. Hardly any of the billions and billions and billions of dollars have gone towards education, which was the original intention.
Yes.
In fact, education in the States has decreased tenfold.
The funding for it.
Everything about it. So the quality of education, the books, the computer, they don't have anything to give to the students. It can't sustain itself. It's bankrupt, the school system. And so you want me to depend on the same government that also, if you didn't know, the United States Postal Service is actually a entity that produced income, it had a surplus. But because the government had robbed Social Security fund, they went and siphoned off of the postal services. That's why the Postal Service went broke. They didn't go broke because it wasn't making money. No. All these things are entities that are self-sustaining, but because the government and people in it are not, pure-hearted or looking out for their citizens, they dibble and dabble, and then there's left with the citizens are left holding the bag, and there's nothing in the bag. So I can't depend on universal basic income because it's not going to sustain me. Social Security doesn't sustain the citizens that are receiving it now. You see older folks having to go up there and be greeters at Walmart and hospital and different things because it's not enough to sustain them when they lied and said back in the old days, this is your retirement, Social Security. So
yeah, we definitely gonna get into that. We got another video coming about that, about the pension shortfalls that the seniors are facing now. And like my wife said, it is a doozy. And so right now there's just a lot of different elements. You got the pension, you got the seniors, you got the Generation Xers such as ourselves, whose Social Security definitely probably won't be there, because most of the time Social Security is funded by the other generation that's currently working. And so, as you know, like I just said, the millennials are moving back home at an 80% clip, and they don't have the same, they don't see life the same like generations past. They seen all the falsehoods and lies and the debt that's been thrown on to our generations. They don't want that. The young folks see that. They don't want no part. And so those systems are
You're going back towards the true system, which is save up enough money before you go out there buying $1 million home. Buy what's in your means and save up enough money before you can get it.
And so all these principles always come back to play, and they always come back to bite. And that's what's happening to the country now. And so that's why people are considering, especially African Americans, it's incumbent upon us to know what's going on and be prepared. And so a lot of people who do have information or who are very concerned, they've already left hoping to find greener pastures. Now, nothing's guaranteed. You might move to another country and that place might collapse and have its own issues. There's nowhere that's perfect.
Right, but the thing is that they're friendlier towards the African American community, and possibly the economy is more stable, and you're able to take your dollar and purchase everything you need and have your own little oasis. Right. So then you don't really need the government. You don't really you have everything you need right in that little area. So
it's all up in the air. The one thing I would recommend everybody do first is pray about the situation. And that might sound cliche, but I'm telling you, that's the best way to get you some insight for you and your family make any kind of dramatic moves like this.
And if you're religious, you know.
Yes.
That African Americans need what, baby?
Prayer. We have to have it.
And reparations. We need reparations. Okay?
For us to be thriving and still prospering the way we are, we got to be blessed. So I'm just telling you, we got some things that they can do. But for us as African Americans right now, just at least have a conversation. And if so, try to find out somewhere that might be an option for you. That don't mean you go out there and move or sell everything you got and do anything. Take time, do your due diligence, but always be aware of your options. That's all we require. Just make sure you have your options lined up and you know what the next move to do if something happens.
You always think America is the safest place, and you wish and hope that always be true, but times they are changing.
Yes. But we just want to share this with family. We just want to have a discussion. We do appreciate everybody who viewed the channel. And if you hadn't had the opportunity, like we said in the beginning, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And the videos will continue to come, and please comment. We would like for you to share anything, any information you have or any ideas, and we definitely
we like
will
interacting
respond
with
to
y'all.
it.
It's great.
Yes, it only helps to edify us and those who read the comments.
Yeah, sometimes you share stuff with us that we had no idea about, so that was great.
Thank y'all again, and be blessed and safe, and good night.
Good night.